When it comes to grade standards, who do you think might use it more? The producers or the consumers? Well, the answer to that question is mainly the agribusinesses, the producers. The producers use grades at a much higher rate, much more frequently than the consumers do. And that's the main reason that grading exists, is for trading. Grading is a major component of trading, especially whenever you're going to be trading by description. Because if you remember that grading specifies the quality of that particular good. And if you're trading by description alone, knowing that quality is very important. So, agribusiness and farmers use grades much more than consumers. So I want you to stop and think about this. Think about whenever you go into the store and you go and you buy, say, something like peas or corn or lettuce or something like tomatoes. Do you know what the quality grade, what the grade of all of these different types of vegetables are? Now, whenever you're going in and buying corn, are you buying number 1 corn or number 2 corn? Are you buying U.S. number 1 tomatoes or number 2 tomatoes? Well, at the end of the day, typically the consumer does not really know what the quality of, or the quality grade of the food that they're buying, but a farmer typically does. A farmer typically knows what grade their crop is. Why is this the case? Well, think about it this way, that we learned from the last video that different grades have different prices. A higher quality, higher grade corn is going to have a higher price attached to it than something like a lower grade corn. Think about the prime beef. Prime beef is often more expensive than choice, standard, or select beef. So a farmer typically is going to know what the grade their crop is, because that's going to often dictate what the price they were going to get on that particular commodity. So some of the main reasons why agribusinesses use commodity trading or use grading for trading much more than something like a consumer might is because agribusinesses deal more with personal inspection. Agribusinesses are going in there and having to inspect the different products that they're using at a much higher rate, much more frequently than that of a consumer. Think about this. You go into the store and you might go and look at different types of vegetables and visually inspect the different fresh vegetables that you're going to pick out. But then you also go in there and you buy apples. You might just pick up a bag of apples and you're not visually inspecting those, but you're just buying the whole bag. Or you might be buying a bag of bread without doing too much inspection. Whereas an agribusiness that's in the process of making bread is going to be visually inspecting that wheat or that flour that they're using at a much higher rate to ensure the quality of the product that they're producing. Also, credit agencies, futures markets, supervisors of ag employees often demand independent assurance of quality. A lot of these agribusinesses, especially whenever they brand a certain product, the quality of that product reflects upon them. So they must make sure that the quality is of the highest standard. Often credit agencies or futures markets, because of the risk that's involved in it, will often demand that a certain quality be in the futures markets or be under this credit agencies for assurance purposes. They must make sure that what they have on the books is the actual true right amount. Why would this become so important in this aspect, especially for credit agencies and futures markets? Well, at the end of the day, different qualities of grain or different qualities of a commodity are at different prices, just like we said up here. So if we have a credit agency loaning us money or loaning us a certain sum of money to go out and buy number 1 corn at this high price, and then we wind up getting number 2 corn and still pay the same high price, that's kind of a bad deal, and it shows a higher risk of default for that loan. Futures markets under the same way. They need that assurance that the quality that's specified in that contract is truly what they're getting. Another reason why agribusinesses use grades more than consumers is because many commodities are processed. Think about this. Whenever you go to the store and you buy goods, you're typically buying processed goods. You might go in there and visually inspect certain types of goods, such as different, more along the lines of commodities, such as vegetables, fresh fruit, eggs, beef, something like that. But at the end of the day, whenever you go and buy oats, you're typically not inspecting the different oats. You're just buying a branded product. So these products that are processed, they wind up losing their identifying characteristics. So as soon as they're processed, they lose that identifying characteristic. And then these branded products are known for quality. So let's look at an example like ragu. Ragu is often made of tomatoes, tomato paste in a sense. So those tomatoes that they use have already lost their identifying characteristics. You cannot tell anymore what quality that tomato was because it's already been processed into this bottle of ragu. Now, also, they have this ragu brand is branded. So if you go in there and you buy a bottle of ragu, you are buying that branded product because of its quality. So consumers often don't necessarily look at grades, but they buy branded products based off their quality, and the agribusinesses are going to be looking at these grades and looking at the quality to where they can ensure that their products that they produce are of the highest quality. Now, grades in real retail stores are usually not very typical. You typically don't find grades in retail stores, but you do find it for select commodities. Some of those commodities might be the type of milk you buy, the type of eggs. You often see, say, AA eggs or A quality eggs, or one really common one is beef. Whenever you go into the store, you can usually look right at the package and see prime, choice, select, or standard. So it is used for select commodities such as beef, eggs, milk, things of that nature, those that are closest to the actual still commodity form that are not necessarily processed yet. Now, grading is usually voluntary. Usually there's no mandate making you grade the products. But the acceptance of grading is based off of a couple of three things. The first and foremost is it has to be accepted somewhere in the marketing channel. If nobody in the marketing channel accepts the grades, then frankly there's no need of using the grading standards, using the grade standards. It also must conform and be designed with the desires of the industry. You're never going to actually go out there and grade a particular commodity if it doesn't really follow with what the industry needs it to do, the desires of the industry. And usually whenever we have conflicting interests, compromise standards. So whenever we have conflicting interests in a sense that, say, a farmer wants their commodity to grade one step higher, but yet they have a lower quality good, it starts to compromise that standard. So what I mean by that is if we develop standards for, say, corn, and we have a certain set of corn that's number 3 corn, but we try to change the standards in order to make that classify as number 2 corn, it starts to compromise the integrity of that quality of that standard. So, because it is voluntary, most of the costs are usually paid by the users, meaning those that are requesting that grading scheme. Now, in some cases, the government does mandate different grades. One of those deals is, or one of the times that occurs, is the United States buys commodities for the armed forces. And whenever that happens, they often use grades. We saw this very prevalent in World War II. Oftentimes, whenever you have marketing orders for fruits and vegetables, they'll require grades. And they do that in order to ensure the products that they're getting, and then to ensure the timing and the quality of the good that they are actually getting. And it's also used parts for quality and volume controls. And then in some cases it is mandatory, such as if we're exporting grains, it's often mandatory to have those graded. Or if you're trading cotton, it's often mandatory to have those commodities graded.